I guess the entire district, but if you guys have any homeowners that need help with the exemption, senior citizens, disability, veterans, come March 26th at noon to 2 p.m. at Fort Schuyler House. These can save you hundreds, if not $1,000 each year, so it's important that we sign up. And the board is holding a shredded and rain barrel event the following Saturday, March 30th, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Greek Church, which is 3573 Bruckner Boulevard. The shredder event is for those who want to bring whatever paperwork they have. You can bring up to 13 pounds, as I was told. 3 bags of 13 pounds. Also, if you want a rain barrel, we have... Is there a number? Well, one per household. So we still... But tomorrow, the deadline closes for the rain barrel event. So we have many City Island folks actually sign up, so I'm actually happy about that. Again, a shredded event and rain barrel. You don't have to have a rain barrel to shred, vice versa. March 30th, 10 to 2, 3573 Bruckner Boulevard. April 13th, the Phipps Beacon Annual Health Fair, which Community Board 10. We do this every year with Phipps Beacon. That's the Beacon program, the successful Beacon program out of IS 192. Yes, Patrick needs volunteers. I need volunteers. Raquel has signed up for 2 hours, Raquel Byers. So you're scratching? You saying yes or no? No, he's saying no. Okay. But we need at least 2 other board members who can handle the table for at least 2 hours. Irene, I need one more. Who's that? April 13th, always a Saturday.
The short one.
Marjorie Velasquez, perfect. Thank you, Marjorie. The health event is for kids and people of all ages. There's fun activities, there's learning of healthy lifestyles, tips on hygiene. It's important that we have it every year. April 13th, IS 192, 650 Hollywood Avenue in Throgs Neck. Thank you to our volunteers. And last but not least, this is something I've been pushing for because many people ask me all the time, how do they dispose of paint and all those chemicals? We're having a Bronx safe disposal event in Orchard Beach on May 19th. The time is still to be decided, but it's in the Orchard Beach parking lot. So for all our contractors, this is your opportunity to throw away things you could not. The paints, the oils, things that can't, everything. E-waste, yes. It's an e-waste event as well as the chemicals and hazardous waste. And if I'm not mistaken, that ends my report, Mr. Chair. Thank you. Oh, to be decided. Not yet.
Oh, okay. Matt?
Yes.
Can I clarify something?
Yes.
I'm involved with the Gateway Project going across the bridge, but it is not my 501c3.
Not a nonprofit, excuse me, not a nonprofit, thank you.
It's not mine, it's not
Not
mine.
yet.
It is, but it's not mine.
Okay, thank you. Ownership.
I'm positive.
Yes.
And I just want to ask people to return the petition for the traffic
Yes,
light.
the petition to
You have
Mr.
one
Carmody
there,
and then
people
myself,
bring it to
yes.
me, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, yes, there's also a survey to the back from Montefiore. It's a community health survey. They do this every 3 years to figure out what are the top priorities for us Bronxites. So it's behind us. It takes about 2-3 minutes. The gentleman, Mr. Tejeda, is available to take your questions. Thank you.
We'll move on to the executive board. The minutes are there. They're pretty self-explanatory. I'll just hit one of the hot topics was a discussion on topics heard before committees and the full board. I want to make sure we're all listening. Okay? Topics that have already been heard in committee and the full board. Once the committee has made that determination and the full board has made their determination and that meeting closes, that's it. Unless something new comes up that makes a drastic change, we've already made our decision. We cannot revisit something once that meeting has closed. All right? So, again, just be careful of that. Another thing is, we do have our rules and everything, and I know some people might have been, caught off guard at the housing and zoning meeting when we talked about a topic that didn't show on the agenda. One thing is for sure that, the last 2 years we've been trying to be as transparent as possible. We try our best to put everything on the agendas 3 days ahead of time. Sometimes some things come up that time sensitive and sometimes it's out of our control. but certain elected officials are allowed to come to our meeting and speak. They can speak on general topics and everything, but once again, they are members of our community board. So if they go into a deep conversation, table it to the next committee meeting. It needs to be on the agenda. It needs to have public participation. That's our big thing. If no public people are there, we have a problem. Then we have complaints, and then Tom's phone doesn't stop ringing. Okay? So we want to make it as easy as possible for him. Okay, there's another free page there. It says summary changes. So that's going to have to do with the first resolution. Resolved at the recommendation of the chairperson of the Community Board 10, that the nomination and election procedures, no, that's not right. No, let's jump down to the bottom of the page 3. Let's do that one. At the recommendation of the chairperson of Community Board number 10, that a nominations election committee be formed for 2019 board elections, and that this be forwarded to the full board for its approval. So that's a committee that we do with the elections. That's 3 to 5 people. I need volunteers for this. I have Denise. Nick, Dorothy, will you do it again? This way we have our, senior person there that knows how to run it. Because it's always good to have someone that flows from the first year right into it. So when this came out, Denise did volunteer first to, well, let me put that committee together. Do I have a motion to accept?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? So carried. The second part of that was Denise Noble. When she seen it, she called up and she gracefully volunteered that she'd chair that committee. So do I have a motion to accept that?
Motion accept.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? So carried. I'm looking. Okay. Going back up to the executive board. At the recommendation of the chairperson of Bronx Community Board 10, that the proposed merger of the 3 documents into one bylaw document be forwarded to the full board for its approval. This was sent out to everyone. They had their chance to comment and add edits. We did have a couple. This is that page I was telling you about, that Bobita, added that anything with a grievance happens in executive session. Anything with any of the personnel dealing with the staff happens in executive session. Then Bobita also had an addition for accused members to run for executive office if complaints were unsubstantiated. There was a thing, right? 3 different choices. The board has to vote. If it's a serious offense, they can vote them off the board. The second is put them on suspension that they cannot run for executive board for 2 years. And the third is that we don't find that it's a serious offense or that there was nothing really happened, and we vote that there's nothing against that member at that time. So we did check into that. Mary Jane, she had a long conversation with me. This has to do with the attendance records that we were doing. It's a attendance requirement for people to run for office of this board. We have an executive board, and it consists of the officers and the standing chairs. So when this nomination election proceeding was first written up, it only had attendance requirements for the 5 officers. I voiced my opinion about that for the last 2 years, but now, because of the new term limits, it's going to be hard in 7 years to have any sort of attendance record. So that was part of, you just voted out the attendance requirement, by the way. But Mary Jane felt that we needed something. And I think it was 2 years ago, Dr. Alvin Ponda was the chairman of the committee, and he recommended that people wrote essays. Why do they want to be in the position? Well, we modify it. We have a candidate questionnaire. I call it the Mary Jane form, you know. Matt calls it the candidate questionnaire. And it asks questions about the board, like, what have your accomplishments been, what committees you've been on, and where do you think the accomplishments of the boards over the years was, and the pros and cons of the board, and where do you think the board is moving? So that was sent out to everyone. I hope you looked at it. I think that's a good way to start getting information. So I thought it was a good idea. We'll see how that goes. So I just wanted to brief everyone on that. All right, so this one here about the nomination elections, that floor motion.
Question about the first one before we move on to the next one. The resolution with regard to the proposal of the three documents. Is the resolution that we're agreeing to put them together?
No.
Or is the resolution that
You-
we're agreeing to accept?
Sorry.
them?
Right, so you are gonna accept it. It was sent out for
No, I
everyone's
just
review.
want to make sure that I understand the resolution itself, that we're accepting the document as proposed in the email in February.
Right,
Okay.
so the reason I was bringing up the next one before we vote, if we vote in the merger, this next resolution goes away, which was about the nomination election proceedings, all right? Just so that you know, before you do vote for the merger of the three documents. So do I have a motion to accept for the merger of the three documents?
Motion to accept.
Bob, Pete, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? So, once again, Community Board 10 is the first community board to have a grievance policy, and now it is part of their bylaws. When we sat with some other community boards, they could not believe that we had this and that it passed. So, yes,
I'd like to take a moment to say thank you to Denise Noble
right.
and to Taisha.
You're right, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Denise Noble and Taisha Chambers, for working with me on creating the documents and making all the edits. I think they did an amazing job and were wonderful to work with. Michelle Davila as well. Yes. She was there.
All right, so here we go. The next one, so we crossed out the one about the nomination election proceedings, we jump to the next one. So if anyone doesn't know, Tony Salambeni sent in a letter stepping down as chairman of the Veterans Committee. He feels that the Veterans Committee was not getting public participation or board participation. We had 3 members on the Veterans Committee, and it hardly any public participation, so he stepped down. So he also recommended that we disband it for now until we come up with a better plan. So the plan is to dissolve it, this Veterans Committee. And then there's another motion right after this. So resolve at the recommendation of the chairman of Community Board number 10. Man, I made a lot of recommendations, huh? It should be, that should be Tony Salambani, but I'll be the tough guy on this one, it's all right. That the Veterans Committee be dissolved due to poor attendance, and that this is to be forwarded to the full board. Motion to accept.
Motion to accept.
Question,
Yes.
at the executive board meeting, was it recommended or discussed that rather than it being dissolved, that it be merged into another committee? I'm just concerned that if it's gone and we have new members that are gonna be coming in, they won't even know that it was something that they could be a part of, and then it'll just die for some long period of time.
Read the next resolution.
Then it should just be one resolution then, right?
No, it's a standing committee right now.
Right, well, can it be like attendance
The-
gonna
The next
dissolve?
resolution.
It's going into,
It's going into it, Health and Human Services.
yes, like it was before it became a
Well, I
free
guess
thing.
what I'm saying is, are we gonna be informing new board members that, that it's possible that this committee can be reinstated if we had enough interest?
Any committee can be formed if we have enough interest. We could
That's
start,
fine. I just wanna make
no,
sure
no,
that-
we could start off as an ad hoc, and if it grows, it could become a standing committee. And if there's anybody with any other ideas for committees, we could always do like a subcommittee, you know, to get something started off, so. Did we had a motion to accept in a second, right? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? So carried. All right. At the resolved, at the recommendation of the chairperson of Bronx Community Board 10, that a veterans group be established and placed under the jurisdiction of Health and Human Services Committee, and to appoint Antoni Salambetti as the liaison of Community Board Number 10 at all our veteran groups in the borough of the Bronx, and that this be forwarded to the full board for their approval.
Motion to accept.
Do I have a second? Second. All right, this is not a new position that we've had this before. It used to be Pat Devine, so we're just bringing back this position. And if Tony feels that he has enough interest, he could have a meeting at any time he wants under the Health and Human Services, all right? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? And I think we're done.
I just have another question, I'm sorry.
Sure.
I think maybe I misunderstood that we skipped over the resolution with regard to the attendance because we accepted the document as it is.
And the attendance requirement was taken out of that.
My only, the question is, does that mean there is zero attendance requirements for
So-
executive board members? So somebody could show up once in a while and be on the executive board?
That's how it used to be.
That probably changed for a reason though.
What happened was, I'll give you a quick, brief history. What happened was, we had our own City Island member, Virginia Gallagher, and every year, she volunteered and ran the nomination elections committee. And she did it for, I think, decades. And we never had a problem. So now, Virginia was, you know, cutting back on some of her responsibilities, and we gave it to other board members, and there was confusion and everything else. So I was asked to write nomination election procedures for the committee. So we did that, it was sent to the board, it was pulled back, and then I was asked to revise it again. I revised it again, it was sent to the executive board. At that meeting, the nomination election proceedings of Robert's rules were pulled out. And then it was decided that Robert's rules for nomination elections would be modified to be accepted for the community board, and that's how we ended up with this attendance record. Now, what I explained to everyone, and I'm not trying to bash anyone, it's already been proven that the attendance requirement isn't always the best to show leadership of the board. And it's something that's hard. It's hard to keep track of. So if you happen to be on multiple committees, now you gotta make that attendance requirement for every single committee. It's a hard thing, and we never had it for 30, 40 years before. It only came into effect 2 years ago, right? Or three years ago, 4. And it's been nothing but problems. People have been using it, these nomination election proceedings to eliminate candidates and things like that. So, and I didn't think it was fair that it only counted for the 5 offices and not the whole executive board. But did you get a chance to look at that?
Well, I worked extensively on the bylaws and I was on the nominations and elections committee last year, so I'm
Right.
familiar with what the requirements were.
Right.
The only thing that I thought was weird was that it was, 2 different percentages based on the type of meeting. I didn't understand where that came from. It's 2/3 of one kind of meeting and, half of another. I didn't understand that.
Right.
But I think conceptually I understood the concept that the list was gonna be somewhat similar each year if some people have a little bit more time and are not going to miss as many meetings.
So-
But I don't necessarily think that it's unfair to have an attendance requirement. We all have attendance requirements in
Sure.
our appointment.
Right.
You know, we're supposed to have to make a certain amount of meetings anyway. But I do hope that, based on what Mary's suggestion is, I do think literature or something like that is good, but I do hope that we're still taking into consideration attendance in our decisions in terms of who should be elected to
So-
executive. Because if you don't have time for your committee meeting.
No, I'll just answer. So before we had the nomination election proceedings, a board member, a very good-looking chairman of Housing and Zoning at the time, requested the attendance of all the candidates. So you can still do that if you want. And it was sent to the whole board, you know? So you can still do that. We're just,
I like Mary's suggestion. I think
Right.
having speeches or literature or something is very helpful, especially.
well, it's a questionnaire, and then when you read that, the next part of a thing was, can we maybe ask questions? And I don't want to prolong the meeting, talking about, you know, every position, but I don't think it'd be a bad thing if, you know, you had 2 or 3 people running for chairperson, if they got up and spoke after they fill out the questionnaire. So that might be something
I
to
think
look
this
at
is
in June.
helpful, especially
Yeah.
for new members, especially for me last year, that would have been very,
Right.
very helpful.
So, you know, again, I don't see a problem with it. And again, if this doesn't work out, we could always go back to the, you know, attendance requirements. Tom's over here laughing.
Thank you for.
'Cause- Lou, Housing and Zoning?
Good evening, everyone. The Housing and Zoning met on March 12, 2019. First on the agenda, as Matt Cruz mentioned, was the 801 Cobb City Boulevard, which they requested to have it postponed until April 2019. Second on the agenda was the Fordham University project that's going in effect on Westchester Country Club Association. They are purchasing the property. They are on contract to purchase the property. They have not, the sale has not gone through yet. The site is located at 3341 Country Club Road. There was many Fordham University alumni presenting the project to us, which we even allowed the public to speak with this matter, and some of the answers was that we're going to have enough parking spaces available. That's a very large parcel to begin with. It's adjacent to Villa Maria Academy. Basically, well, let me just let you know, the committee itself felt pretty comfortable with the presentation. They felt very comfortable with the questions that we asked and the answers that we received. And at the same time, the committee did agree to draft a letter of support. I'm sorry. I thought I missed something, but anyway. At the same time, they assured us there was not going to be any liquor or any kind of parties or anything on the project. Also, the property will be available to neighboring schools and other schools for other schools to use their facilities. They will have cameras at the minimum and a gate to secure the property, and possibly, which no commitment yet as far as the security guard, but at minimum they will have cameras there and a gate to secure, and it'll be locked on every evening. There will be no activity once the sun goes down, so it'll be nice and quiet for the neighborhood. It's not an issue to begin with. Obviously, we had a presentation by our councilman Mark Giovanni, who was in attendance, and this has been going back and forth, and more or less he was going to enlighten on us on future projects, and I think that was a big misunderstanding back and forth. But anyhow, at the end of the day, that we will definitely get further projects on Nate, but then we gotta really give it a good thought how we're gonna approach this matter, which will be discussed at our next, board meeting. At the same time, we had an election, and myself and Cherka were re-elected as chair and court chair. The meeting adjourned at 9:30 p.m. And that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Lou. So, just going back to the Westchester Country Club there. So Fordham alumni is buying a property, and then they're gonna do what they have to do, and they're gonna give it to Fordham University for their road team and their sail team. They were looking for a letter of support, it didn't get in the packet, but the letter of support is pre-BSA, right? So what I talked to Matt about, we have to be very detailed about it, that we would give you a letter of support on the concept of the presentation that was given to us that night, and our final decision will be after we receive the documentation from BSA. So we're not gonna approve anything, we're just gonna approve the concept right now, because sometimes when it goes to BSA, things change around. BSA. Or to send it to the thing, okay? So, does anyone have any objections about this letter to go out? We will send it out to you, tomorrow. Yeah, we'll have a motion, but.
Motion to accept?
No, just one second. Before we send out the letter, we will send it, letter to the board members for any of their comments before it would go out to anyone else. Okay, so motion to accept was Bob. Do I have a second? Tom? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? So carried. Sorry about that. So we're at Tom Accomando.
Good evening, fellow board members and people in attendance. The Economic Development meeting met at March 5th. We had no incidents reported from the 45th. We had a kind of light agenda. We have 3 TAT foods on City Island, which is concessions. I read Scavallo's separate, because at the time, somebody was supposed to come and voice their opinion about some loud music coming from there. That person didn't show, and there was no incidents reported about Savallo's. So I'm gonna read Savallo's with the TAT and McDermott's, so I don't have to read it again. Resolved that the recommendation of the Economic Development Committee, Bronx Community Board 10, that the following establishments apply for renewals and have agreed to comply with the best manager practices standards contained within the stipulations by signing them, and furthermore to agree to ATAX training and their compliance be sent to the State Liquor Authority. A resolution and vote in the compliance be placed in the board's file. Taps Food Service, 895 Shore Road, Orchard Beach, number 5. 895 Shore Road, Beach, license 1294677, which expires on 10/31/18. TAT Foods, 895. You want to keep it down, please? Excuse me, sir. 895 Shore Road, Orchard Beach, number 7. License expires, license 1294686, which expires on 10/31. See, these are all seasonal. TAT Foods, 895 Shore Road, Beach number 10, license 1294676, which expires on 10/31. McDormand's in the Neck, 3809 East Tremont, 10465 between Randall and Schley, license 1284250, which expires on 5/31/2019. Scavallo's on City Island, 121 City Island Avenue, 10464 between Reynolds and Pilot Street, license 1282711, which expires on 3/31/19. Can I get a motion to accept? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? So carries. We then went on to Calientes. The committee had a lot of questions for them because they're new, and plus that we're opening another place right across from Seafood City. They didn't have a good signatures from the neighborhood, but you wouldn't know because it was a tremendous turnout from City Island, and a lot of their concerns were expressed at the meeting. From what I understand, they went back into the neighborhood, got some more signatures. There was an express concern about meeting with Civic Association, that they weren't meeting with them, and we strongly suggested, there was some reasons why, but that got got all straightened out, and as Tom Smith was able to confirm with me today, that they did comply with that, and that they were satisfied with it's better to have a good open relationship and talk to these people, tell them what the community expects, and we went on from there. They are gonna open on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday at 3 o'clock in the morning, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're gonna stay open that late. That's only if they have the business. If they don't have the business and it's quiet, they're gonna close a little earlier. We insisted on 2 o'clock or a little earlier for last call. They agreed. The Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday and Wednesday, it's only gonna be 2 o'clock. I don't believe this. 2 o'clock. So with that, the committee took a vote. There was 5 in favor, 3 abstentions. And I think the abstentions was because of the community was concerned about meeting with the civics. I think that was what we were insisting on. And that's been solved. So is there any board members with a question on this bar?
I have a question. There were questions that came up during that meeting about them getting soundproofing for the inside.
Yeah, we suggested that for,
And they.
at time of development.
They came to the board office and we gave them the information.
Okay, and I just wanted to make 2 comments that I kind of went around and looked and talked to some of the residents that were at other bars that are similar to their bars on City Island, Fellas, Man Overboard, and Patty's, because they're people that live right around there, and asked them if they were disturbed by their music, and nobody came forward to say that they were disturbed at night. And I just think that if, they act in good faith and as good neighbors, and just because you have a 3 a.m., indoor music liquor license doesn't mean that you have to play music till 3 a.m. And that we would ask that, like, in the summertime, if, let's say, their air conditioner goes out and they keep their doors open for any reason, please don't keep the music on inside, because that will flow out into the neighborhood. So,
When you asked those other businesses those questions, did you ask them what time they stopped playing music?
well, they stop earlier, but, they all have liquor license till.
No, I just want to know if you asked them what time they.
I asked,
so
like,
that
the people in the neighborhood if they were
if they
disturbed by
ever
the
heard
music,
anything.
and they weren't, so.
Oh, okay. I thought maybe you went to the businesses as well as the neighbors to kind of do a comparison to see if they did play music around the same time and the
If they-
neighbors weren't disturbed.
The people didn't seem to be disturbed by them, so they probably stopped playing it that late, they don't play it that late, so.
Well, like I said, we also know that there's, like Mr. Sullivan said, there's a certain amount of decibels that they could go over, and that was they complied with everything. They signed those stipulations, they signed the noise thing, so they're very well aware of what's expected.
I got a motion to accept, so that we should be going there.
All right, I gotta want to read the resolution or
Yeah.
just the motion?
We shouldn't talk about it unless we get
Okay.
to accept.
All right. Resolved that the recommendation of the Economic Development Committee of Bronx Committee Board 10 that the following establishment apply for a new liquor license and agree to apply with the best management practices, standards contained within the stipulations by signing them, and to furthermore agree to ATAP's training, and that the compliance be sent to the State Liquor Authority along with the resolution and the vote, and the copies be placed in the board's file. Calientes, 414, City Island, 10464. Between Belmars and Borough Street, license new. Can I get a motion to accept?
Except,
Second.
Lou, second. All in favor? Oh, hold on. For discussion? Question?
So let me just make this clear for the public that considered part of the stipulations. And that's all right, I'll talk louder. These hours are part of the stipulations. By law, they're allowed to stay open to 4 a.m. every morning. That's how it is. So they're agreeing to cut back on the hours. Now here's the catch, and if I'm wrong, someone can correct me. If we voted down, which we vote down licenses in the past, State Liquor Authority can still give it to them and has given them. But once we vote down the license, we're voting down these stipulations. Now, they don't have to be held to these times. They could be open 4 o'clock every morning. So they agreed to this on their own. So I'm just letting you know that up front. So if we do vote it down and they get the license, because they really don't have, as a new establishment, anything against them already. The State Liquor Authority, they want the money. It's that easy. You know, so it's the same thing with sidewalk cafes. We voted them down, they get them. The city wants the money. So I'm just letting you know up front before we take the vote, that if we did vote it down, they can still get the license, and then the stipulations wouldn't have to be, held, but they could be open for it.
I'd just like to add that it's not just the hours, there's a whole list of stipulations that we ask every liquor establishment to sign on to. Anybody wants to see those, they're available at the board office.
And then, second thing is the DJ music, recorded music, and live music. Live music is up to a 3-piece band, recorded music and DJ. This is nothing that they're getting permission. This is something they're legally allowed to do. It's not that we're granting them permission. They just want it on their liquor license, so in case they get the police coming in or something, it's on their liquor license. But they are legally allowed to have this. It's not that we can restrict that either. Our hands are really tied, just to tell you the truth. But I just wanted to bring out those points. Tom?
And like Peter says, if they signing these stipulations, they have to abide by these stipulations. If we vote against them, and they get their license anyway, that's it. So there's a motion on the floor, can I get motion to accept? All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Hold on, who's opposed?
One opposed.
So many licenses.
Any other opposed?
Any abstentions? Okay, we went on to elections. Myself and Anna Acapara was re-elected for chair and co-chair. The meeting ended at 9 o'clock.
Bobby.
Notes here somewhere.
Okay, we had our Yankee Grant Awards. So just to let everybody know, the awardees of the 5 Yankee Grants this year will be Andrew Gonzalez from Salesian High School from Wilcox Avenue, Rebecca Serini from Preston High School at Gillespie Avenue, Samantha Mazza from Preston High School on Rivera Avenue, Brittany White from Health Education and Research Occupations High School on Debs Place resident, and Tavana Wright, Lehman High School, Schley Avenue resident. So Community Board Yankee Day. Thank you. Community Board Yankee Day will be on Tuesday, May 7th against the Seattle Mariners. And I want to thank Stephanie Woods, who graciously agreed to represent the board at the game. So she'll be going down on the field with the awardees, and they'll get put up on the big screen, and they really do a nice job for them.
Can we just quiet down in the back while we're speaking, please? Thank you so much. And if you could just put your cell phones on vibrate, that would be helpful as well.
Okay, in addition, Stephanie was kind enough to attend the Community Education Council meeting, where she gave out flyers for the Dolly Parton Foundation, which is Books for Children program. The UFT is going to be having their Advocacy Day in Albany, or had, I should say, on March 18th. The committee would also like to make sure that the Dolly Parton Foundation flyers are going to go out to the maternity wards and local hospitals. Basically, the Dolly Parton Foundation, in case anybody isn't aware of it, we were presented with that last month. Every child from 0 to 5 years old who lives in New York City is eligible to receive a free book every month from 0 to 5 years. So if you're interested, if you know anybody who has small children, you can reach out to the board. We'll get you the form so that you can send that in to the Dolly Parton Foundation. And by 5 years old, the child can build himself a beautiful library. Let's see, the RFP for the Beacon program at Truman is expected to be ready within the next 4 weeks. So we're very excited to see what that is, and they have agreed to show us that ahead of time so that we'll get a review of the request for proposal. So all's going well. We did have the meeting scheduled for March 14th at PS 160. That's been changed. We've gone back to our regular meeting night, which is the 25th, next Monday at the board office. Yes?
The RFP program for the Beacon program, you look into it because I was informed that the RFP has been ready, but the principal refuses to sign it.
Okay, we can definitely look into that. Thank you. Okay, we definitely will. With that, my meeting is all done. Thank you. The Precinct Council meets the first Thursday of every month, as I mentioned earlier, in the public participation. We do have our breakfast May 8th, and everybody's always welcome there. Thank you.
Joe Russo, Municipal Services.
Thank you, Peter. Okay, we opened our meeting by having 8 street activity permits for review. The minutes self-explanatory, but the first 4 are for the fair at the square, which is Saturday, June 15th. And because they're closing down 4 separate blocks, it was submitted as 4 different street activity permits. So those are listed there. The 5th one is for the Carnival of Love, which is Saturday, July 6th. On St. Raymond's Avenue between St. Peter's and Overing Street. The 6th one was for what you heard about earlier, the electronic waste recycling event that's going to be this Saturday over at IS 192. That's from 10 to 4. We also had a permit request for the Circle the Square Movie Night Weekend Walk, which will be on Lane Avenue between Westchester Avenue and East Tremont on April 27th. And then a weekend walk, the Square Movie Nights, on a series of those, which are going to be May 4th, July 13th, September 14th, and October 5th. Again, Lane Avenue at Westchester Square. So those are a lot of Westchester Square events. The committee reviewed them and passed them without unanimously. So now we'll put it before the full board. Resolved that the recommendation of the Municipal Service Committee, the following street activity permit applications be forwarded to the full board for approval. Motion to accept?
Motion to accept.
Second? All in favor? Any opposed? Fantastic. All right, also we had a request from Paul Scavello for no parking signage on a single spot at 101 City Island Avenue. Mr. Scavello advised the committee that he did inform City Island Civic Association, Chamber of Commerce. We did ask that the committee had no objection to the request. However, we asked it to be forwarded to the City Island Civic Association for comments. So, Matt, I don't know if they've... Yeah. Okay. Sorry for that. We also had the captain of...
The executive board and the officers did weigh in and they were in favor. Oh, cool.
Okay.
You can call it that.
We don't need a resolution on that. We just... Fine. Okay. We also had the new captain at the 45th Precinct, touched upon numerous topics about crime in the area, and again, the bullet points are listed there. And finally, we had Jackie Carter of the MTA City, New York City Transit Association. There are 2 very elaborate reports that are available online and in our office about the ways they're looking to redesign bus usage within the Bronx, within the whole city. And it's a very interesting study about what they're looking at.
Behind the back, please, thank you.
It's a very interesting, thank you. It's a very interesting study about how they're looking at usage and so on, and something that they're going to have workshops scheduled starting in May. Anyone who rides any public transportation, but particularly the buses in the Bronx, should really look into that and see some of the things they're looking at in terms of redesigning the way that bus transportation works. So it's a pretty exciting looking report. So I urge everyone to kind of either go on the website and get it, or go to the board office to take a look at that. Finally, in closing, for some strange reason, the committee decided to re-elect myself and Ms. Baez as chair and co-chair. I don't know why, but we will gladly accept the charge and move forward for another year. Thank you very much.
All right, I think I'm gonna go to you, because I just realized we forgot to talk about, yeah, so I'll let you talk about it and close out that committee.
Good evening, everyone. We had our Health and Human Services Committee on February 28th, and we had a wonderful visit from Dr. Nicole Hollingsworth. She's the Assistant Vice President for Community and Population Health. She gave a PowerPoint presentation on the Community Needs Health Assessment Survey, which includes a 3-year massive data compilation of the needs and concerns of the Bronx community by zip codes. And I'm going to add that Mr. Carlos Tejeda from Montefiore is here. He has the forms in the back, and it would be great if our community board members would play the role model and pick up a health assessment form and fill it out tonight. So we could, because they only get out of all the Bronx approximately 5,000 responses out of, I don't know how many people are in the Bronx, I forgot. 20, right. 1,400,000, and they only get 5,000 responses. So, you know, come on, let's get up there. She did state that we're now number 10 as a healthy state, down from being number 40, so you could tell the borough president that, Tom. And our statistics have gone down, improved in life expectancy. So we have dropped from, I don't know if that's a typo, but something 76% to 76.2% to 64.9. So people like me and all of us that are seniors, we're living longer, thank God. I like that. And then we were again revisited by Beverly Bickles, Executive Director and Vice President of Clinical Service at Montefiore. She came back to us in June 13, 2017, and she gave us another, she distributed a PowerPoint report, and she said there was an article published on Crain's indicating that Einstein is moving ahead with a $30 million budget for emergency department expansion beginning the summer of 2019 and will take 4 years for completion. She was still asked about the situation regarding the hallway beds. As you heard, one of our community constituents talked about that. The committee still feels that it needs improvement. She indicated that there is a safer environment in hallway beds than in the emergency room. The criteria for patients in hallways is dependent upon a shorter length of stay. And we're still following up on that. The Health and Human Services Committee will stay on top of that, along with Council Member Richie Torres, who's also become a part of this, right, Matt? Okay, yes. And then it was requested by the committee that to invite Dr. Reese or Dr. German regarding evaluation and advice on childhood experiences. And we're planning on scheduling a healthy lifestyle walk for Saturday, June 1st at Orchard Beach at 10 a.m. So we can bring down those statistics of the health in the Bronx. And I would like to add that on next Thursday, March 28th, the Bronx Community Task Force from the Borough President's Office of Faith-Based Initiatives, which that handsome senior right here in the gray is the CEO. That's my husband. Thank you for the applause. We're hosting a Peace and Health Interfaith Breakfast. It's our 4th annual. The flyers are in the back. It's from 9:30 to 12, from 9 a.m. till 12:30. It's free. And it's an interfaith breakfast, so we do have a table for halal breakfast, for kosher breakfast, and for the American Christian breakfast. And we're also going to have a full staff of medical screening. They will be doing full medical screening from your head to your toes, your veins, or any clogged arteries or anything. They'll be there. We're going to do confidential hepatitis C and HIV testing, and there will be a host of tables with health organizations. And you can go and you see all these pens. They love to give away pens and pads and cups and bags and all that, so everybody comes for it. So we would like as many people as you can to attend. If not, take a flyer and pass it forward. Thank you very much. And we adjourned, and we'll have our elections in our March meeting coming up. Thank you.
So last night, there was a discussion at the executive board about the co-op ad hoc committee. An ad hoc committee is supposed to be a temporary committee. This ad hoc committee has been going on for over a year and a half. And it was established for the capital projects that were coming out, the Metro North, the waterfront, the animal shelter. So the animal shelter has already been decided. Metro North is in negotiations right now, and the waterfront park seems to be on hold. So at this point, we're gonna, disband the committee, and when it's time, all that stuff that needs to be done for those will go back to either municipal service or housing and zoning, whichever committee, it should be in, because these were only subcommittees. So, I see your hand up, Terrence, what's up?
Is there also a ferry going out of Co-op City soon?
No. No. No, that's okay. There's talks about other future spots for ferries. But I just wanted to let you know that we did talk to Nancy, and right now, having this committee is, without a meeting or anything, makes no sense. So we're gonna disband it, and it could be brought back up again when things start heating up with the Metro North, or if anything pops up with the waterfront park. If necessary, one of the subcommittees, either, municipal service or housing and zoning, if they felt like it's something important, they could actually have that meeting in Co-op City to make it easier, so.
And also, if there's anything imperative that happens in Co-op City, we will definitely, I will definitely put it into the Co-op City Times. And they're very good at informing Co-op City residents and putting out flyers if anything comes up.
All right, so at this point, I'd like to make a motion to disband the Co-op City Ad Hoc Committee.
Motion to disband.
Second, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? We're going to Parks and Recs.
Good evening. Pinch hitting, Terrence was out for the meeting and he asked if I would read tonight's minutes. He and I were reelected. That was the first agenda item. He and I got reelected as chair and co-chair with only 4 members on the committee. It's inevitable. And so 3 out of 4 were there. And my mother was Mrs. Krenicki, I'm just Ms. Thank you. Matt has wanted us to get ahead of the game, so to say, and we looked at district needs that go on the requests in the fall. So some of the items that always seem to be turned down, Matt compiled them in the list that follows, so that Parks could tell us what the funding is needed, and if the city will actually give it, give us a positive answer. So one is funding necessary to resurface the athletic field in Pelham Bay Park, funding necessary to provide a new or expanded park or amenities at Berry Point Park, funding necessary to provide Bruckner Playground with a needed upgrade and full restoration, cost of Berry Point Park parking resurfacing, and then we have long asked for a fully functional recreation center at Owen Dolan. Westchester Square is a thriving community, We'd like to have a full recreational center that would fit into the Owen Dolan. And then last but not least, the cost of providing a recreational assistant in Pearly Gates and Bufano Park. Those were the budget items that come up in the fall, and we always seem to get a negative answer. Matt offered to the committee to begin asking parks for the cost of these projects so that district needs is stronger and so that follow-up with elected officials is facilitated. The committee agreed to keep all submissions and to allow for the district manager to draft a letter to the borough commissioner. Mary Ann Anderson is the parks administrator for Pelham Bay Park, Orchard Beach, and she was there, as always, giving us guidance. The committee also discussed funding for a skate event to be held in Bufano Park. The district manager will follow up with Parks and Council member Joe Nye to finalize details. Bob Eder brought up several items, discussed the Play Fair initiative, and would like to have a resolution forwarded to the full board for approval. Is that for tonight or another time? Okay. The Play Fair, oh boy, I'm gonna have my first resolution. The Play Fair campaign is to request a significant increase to the expense budget for the Parks Department, which would baseline or secure funding for much-needed maintenance, gardener, and park worker positions in the city budget. Resolution. Resolved at the recommendation of the Parks and Recreation Committee of Bronx Community Board 10 that the board to write a letter of support to the mayor's office for the Play Fair initiative for sustainable funding for all New York City parks in the financial financial year is it? 2020 budget, fiscal year 2020 budget, and that this be forwarded to the full board for approval. Do I hear a motion?
Motion to accept.
Second. All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Question, Dorothy and Matt, for the funding for Berry Point Park, there is a capital construction project that was supposed to be in the works. Have we determined if the funding is available for that project and when it will be beginning, and what the scope of it is?
I haven't had the answer yet. Yeah, I'll make sure they come to the committee actually.
Oh, okay.
I'll make sure that's a presentation to the committee.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you for reminding me. Thank you.
The numbers are.
Oh, that's the district need register item.
Other than you almost
Okay. Thank you for your reports. Do we have, I didn't miss anyone, right, before?
No, no.
Okay.